Okay, good morning and welcome everybody. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. I know we have a small group, but it's a mighty group. And I'm glad to see you. Thank you for coming today. My name is Kim Brenner-Zirkel, and I'm the chair of Women United. And again, I'd like to welcome you today. I'd also like to welcome our virtual guests. Hello, thank you for coming and joining us as well. We're wonderfully happy to have you here for our first installment of interviews with inspiring women and for the start of our Women United events for 2022. For our virtual guests, before I dive in, I just want to share some quick reminders if you're joining online. You are muted and your video is off. Woohoo! If you have a question that's always good to know. If you have a question for our presenters, please feel free to use the chat box. And today's event is being recorded, and we will share it afterward if someone was unable to join us today and would like to watch it later. Many thanks go to our 2022 Women United sponsors for their amazingly generous support. It means so much. Our series sponsor is Wealthspan Health, and our supporting sponsors are Univest Bank and Trust Company, OSS Health, and People's Bank, a Cadorus Valley company. So let me start today by introducing Kim Brister of Wealthspan Health for some brief remarks. Kim? All right.
Good morning, everybody. I'm always a little vertically challenged, so the podium's probably almost up to my neck there. Welcome to those out there also online. And once again, my name is Kim Brister. I am the Vice President, Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Wealthspan Health. I'm really excited to be here today. I was talking to one of my colleagues who's in week 2 of being with Wealthspan, Karen, and Janice actually, we were just talking about how the pandemic has created some challenges for us, personally and professionally, just not knowing whether or not you're going to be in person or you're going to be remote, things of that nature. And, while there have been those challenges, there's also been some really great spots for us too. Personally, I will say that, being able to be home and work remotely with my 2 dogs who like to join in every now and then in the meetings has been pretty cool. And those that, have small children at home, it really gives us an opportunity to spend more time actually with family than what we did before. So the pandemic has been challenging for us, but also has brought some really good things. I'm very honored to be here representing Wealthspan as we are sponsoring this series, especially excited to be here to support Leanne Wilson, who I actually serve on the United Way board with as well. While investing in our community is one of the foremost things that we commit to as far as Wealthspan is concerned, we also believe in investing in women. And for many of you, you may or may not know, but Wealthspan has over 20,000 employees across the regions that we serve. And out of those 20,000 employees, we have our stats are 81% of those employees are women. 81%. So, that's a huge number when you really think about it. And it's unbelievable, 81%. 45% of our executives are women. So we actually, really demonstrate a commitment to women in our organization. As we look around this room today, Women United is an organization, once again, a subsidiary of the United Way, and it's a group of women that are committed to investing in its local community. Really encouraging and wanting to help, the community thrive and grow. I've personally had the opportunity to participate in United Way, or should I say specifically Women United events, sponsoring and mentoring young women at York College. And being able to give back, to women and to those future generations are critically important to not only our community, but the organizations that one day we hope that they come and join and help to lead. So I just want to thank everyone that was able to be here today, and I'm looking forward to the conversation with Leigh Ann. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you for the ways that you give back and that Wealthspan gives back to the community. They make such an impact, that's for sure. So thank you. So as you mentioned, we're going to have an amazing interview here with Leigh Ann, and I'd like to introduce you to her just a little bit. Here's a little bit about her background, and then we'll dive in. Leanne Wilson is currently the Director of Manufacturing Strategy for Stamball Ness. In this role, she will expand its manufacturing and distribution practice area across a national footprint. Personally, she's married to Matt, and they have 2 school-age children, Nolan and Odette. They are on a mission to visit all of the national parks and just visited their 34th park a few weeks ago. So that's quite an effort and really, really neat. So, Leanne, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
You need this mic.
Thank you. And bring it over. All right. Thank you.
Is this one on? Is this one on? Yes.
Okay. Oh, geez. It's not good when she has tissues here already.
There's no promises I won't be crying, but we'll see.
The inspiring part, you'll find out. And this is, okay. So, first, Leanne, can you tell us about your career path and the leap that you fairly recently made to Stamball Ness?
Of course, and I first want to thank you for inviting me to do this. As I put in my social media posts, it's extremely humbling to be considered inspiring. So thank you for joining us, those online as well. Let's do this. So yes, I am currently the Director of Manufacturing Strategy at Stamball Ness. And how I arrived here does require a look back to my career. I studied marketing and communication at Juniata College, and when I was there, I worked part-time in the admissions department. That led to my first full-time role at the Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine in Erie, Pennsylvania, where I worked in the admissions department. After about a year, a new position was opened up in the communications department. It was exactly what I went to college for, so I became the communications assistant. And that role really gave me the experience I needed for the next several steps in my career. After 4 years, my husband and I decided to leave the snow belt of Erie and was moving down to South Central Pennsylvania. We chose this area because it's centrally located between our families. My dad's in the Poconos and his family is near Johnstown area. And there's life here. That was the other thing. I needed Target, I needed everything. So we were choosing to move down here, and I reached out to Juniata College alumni in hopes of making some of those local connections. Independently, I ended up finding a role at an engineering firm in Mechanicsburg for, again, another new position that was being created as the marketing and office services specialist. After about 15 months, I realized that is not the right fit for me. And out of the blue, at the same exact time, Keith Hartman, a Juniata College alumni, reached out to me with a position that was at his company for marketing and events coordinator. It still amazes me that he held on to my resume for over a year between when we were moving down here and when his position opened. So it was the perfect job description, and I joined Mantech on October 22nd, 2007 as the marketing events coordinator. At that time, I knew nothing of manufacturing, but I would think it's fair to say that I quickly became enamored with the industry. It's so critical to our economy, and getting to go into plants and see parts be made still fascinates me. And on my LinkedIn post, I put my adventures in manufacturing, sharing what I've learned. So as the years flew by, I had the opportunity to gain lots of new skills in leadership and get new responsibilities. John Lloyd was Mantech's president and CEO at the time, and he started a tradition where around work anniversaries, he would take employees out to a meal. And that was for the employee to share their goals, what they liked or disliked about the organization. So it was mostly our conversation, but he would always ask a question every year. Are you excited to get out of bed and come to work every morning? And I could always give a resounding yes. At my 10-year work anniversary in 2017, I remember asking John, how could I become Mantech's next president? So as John set his own retirement goals, plans, I again had the opportunity to start filling more gaps between the role I currently had and the role of that president. There was a point in my life where everything was focused around this goal. I had the opportunity to do Mentorship York through Leadership York in 2019, where that program really helped me recognize that that goal of being president really was not that far out of reach. So 2020 was the year. 520 people applied for the position. After the 5-month process, I came in second place and was named Chief Operating Officer. There were too many tears to count that I didn't attain that goal. And I was doing a lot of baking at the time. My kids came to name the desserts my sadness cakes. Shortly after that announcement came out, a friend in the Women of Manufacturing came bounding over to me, so excited about my COO role. But I had to tell her it's not the role that I wanted. So it took a little while, but I did end up embracing her enthusiasm. COO was a great title. I was in a position of leadership and still at an organization where I loved the mission. I think it's pretty standard with any leadership change that the organization and the culture changed too. And it crept in slowly that COO wasn't the right fit for me. I was no longer interacting with clients, and it was really difficult to be in a position of seeing the changes and knowing how I would have done things differently. So thinking back to John's annual question, I could no longer say that I was excited to come to work, and the sadness cakes turned into stress cakes. It took a friend to recognize the unhealthy place I was in and simply gave me the advice, your husband is a doctor, so quit. It was it wasn't quite that easy. I needed a plan. So the plan started to come together when I realized the sweet irony that October 22nd, 2021 was a Friday. Thus, I ended my time at Mantech exactly 14 years after it started. So yes, I was fortunate that I could afford to leave my job, regain my mental health, and focus full-time on what the next chapter would be. I spent time with the journal from Katie Caples. Mary Beth Ching encouraged me just to walk and enjoy my time off, which I absolutely did. We had a lovely, warm November, if you recall. Maybe you were inside, so you didn't. And I ended up having so many conversations with people in my network, and did I skip a step? No. Yeah, I did skip a step. I'm sorry. I was able to leave, and I was taking that leap of faith in trusting my reputation in the community that the next role would come. And it absolutely did. As word began to spread that I was leaving Mantech, those doors started to open. So I had 5 conversations lined up for the first week after I left. And within 3 weeks, I had 2 job offers, and I would have had a third, except I refused to drive to Lancaster for a job. So I did not accept the Sambon-Ness offer the minute I received it because I didn't have enough time to process what I wanted that next step to be. So that's where I was doing the journaling from Katie and walking and having the conversations. I also had the opportunity to talk to Sambon-Ness employees to just get more information to help me make that decision. As one of my new colleagues put it, I really went through a very thoughtful process on making that decision and reaching the conclusion that Director of Manufacturing Strategy at Sambon-Ness was going to be a good fit. So the position was created for me, and it built upon all of my career experiences, which is why we went through that whole explanation. I have 3 main roles right now: client experience. I'm gonna need water.
No worries.
So client experience, business development, and thought leadership. So there's a blend of that marketing background that I have, my manufacturing knowledge, and being a people connector. So on top of the role, Sambon-Ness is a destination of talent and is very people-centered. So even before the pandemic, they started making the shift into a remote workforce. We currently have over 200 employees in 30 states, and Jess was named the 3rd fastest growing accounting firm in the country. So I've joined an amazing growing organization, and at the same time was able to retain all of my flexibility that I needed for my other big roles of wife and mom, and keep my life goals of the national parks in focus. And it does really excite me that my adventures in manufacturing continue on a national scale. There.
Wow. That is amazing. Well, inspiring just there. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize, when we had talked and gotten together, I didn't realize that they created that position for you. That is incredible. You definitely,
It was one of those doors that opened that had things worked out differently, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to join Standboss. So it was meant to be.
Meant to be, I'd say. That's awesome. So since you've worked in, I'd say, a male-dominated world, can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe some of the challenges that you've had or the benefits that you can share?
Those are slightly different questions than are on my paper.
Sorry. Okay. Has it been challenging
Do you know I need to
work?
prepare?
I'm sorry. Has it been challenging to work in an industry that is mostly male-dominated? And what advice do you have for others in a similar situation?
Thanks, I'm prepared for that. So when I first thought about this question, the answer was no, and for the most part it still is. I don't feel like I've ever struggled working with a lot of men. But I do need to acknowledge how I felt after that Mantech president decision was made. And the best word I could find was how underestimated I felt. I know that people that knew me, there were some ripples of surprise that I wasn't selected. Of course, myself as well. But any perceived weaknesses that I had on my part, I know I would have overcome them. By the way, I've always approached challenges, that surrounding myself with people that had my gaps as their strengths. So just being able to get through that together. So with that said, I'll share why I haven't felt challenged by working in a male-dominated industry. I think through the years, I've had lots of personality assessments done. And my strengths really play into being able to be myself and contributing at a high level so that I do have a seat at the table. On the DISC charts, I'm a CD, so I really need those details and then I can make a decision. My directness is going to tell you exactly as things are. I'm still struggling with having the tact to be softer in my approaches, but I'm certainly not hiding my opinions or shying away from those difficult conversations. Standboss uses the Gallup Strengths, which I have found fascinating. If you ever get an email from a Standboss person, in our email signatures are our top 5 strengths. It's really kind of cool. So mine are achiever, discipline, futuristic, relator, and responsibility. So to summarize what that means, and you'll see this throughout my career and everything, I set big goals, I follow through on them, I can envision the future, I hold deep relationships, and I do what I say I will do. And those describe me perfectly. So using my strengths, I really have earned the respect of those around me to continue to have new responsibilities. But don't get me wrong, I emphasize my role in a man's world in some not so subtle ways. At least a third of my closet is full of dresses, but that doesn't mean anything in a remote position now. Top matters, right? I have my pink water bottle that goes with me just about everywhere. And when I have the opportunity to visit a manufacturing plant, I have my signature pink safety glasses and pink steel-toed shoes. And this has been mentioned in the past few weeks, so I guess it really is a signature item, and I'm pinking up manufacturing. I've also, of course, leveraged all the amazing women's groups that we have in our community. I remember coming back from a women's business center organization when it was at York College, so it was a while ago. And I had just learned about the Equal Pay Day on March 15th, which is the day that it recognizes the pay disparity between men and women being paid for doing the same job. So it was an impulse conversation that I marched into John's office and demanded to know if I was being paid fairly, since I was the only woman in a leadership role at Mantech. So lesson learned, be a little bit more thoughtful instead of accusatory. I know But John was great, and he did give me a very thoughtful response that I was being compensated appropriately. I was also co-founding chair of the Women in Manufacturing chapter in Women in Manufacturing Central PA chapter in 2020. That group focuses on inspiring, promoting, and supporting the current and the next generation of women in the trades. So I found all of the women's groups, including Women United, to be so powerful when we're able to be together. And that really has built on my strengths to be where I am today.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. So I know that you have been a United Way volunteer and donor for at least a decade. Can you tell us what made you get involved and want to give back?
So I didn't know about United Way until I joined Mantech. And like many other workplaces, we would hold a campaign in the fall. We were a small organization, and we did things a little bit differently than most. We once received an award for having the shortest campaign because we held it during a staff meeting. We started the morning with a special omelet breakfast. We heard from the United Way representative and a partner agency, and we filled out our donation forms. At the end of the meeting, our campaign total was shared, and everyone that contributed was entered for prize drawings. We were really lucky to have staff members that had beach houses, so they would donate long weekends at their beach houses as a prize, and I was lucky enough to win at least twice. But it was around 2012 where the Emerging Leaders Society of United Way held an event at Harley-Davidson. So of course, my job's in manufacturing. I was going to go visit that iconic manufacturer. About a year later, my boss recognized kind of the plateau I was reaching at a small organization, and I had to stretch out and find leadership opportunities in the community. So that's where I connected those two pieces and joined the ELS steering committee. Very quickly, an opening happened for the vice chair of the committee, so I was elected to that in 2014 and then became chair in 2016. At the same time, I went all in. I became on the campaign cabinet and was leveraging my manufacturing relationships for those workplace campaigns. And I also had a seat at the table for the United Way board, as was part of the ELS chair role. So you could quickly say that I learned more and more about United Way because I dove all the way in. Definitely one of those volunteers that says yes, a little bit too much, but that's okay because it's a great organization. So I know that we are here to support the most vulnerable people in our community doing the Day of Action, and I definitely just became that United Way champion. In 2017 and 18, I chaired the Building Future Leaders of York County Conference, which was held with, I think it was 7 different organizations. And that was a fantastic group to get together. And then that ended in 2018. So in 2018, I had this gap of like, all right, I've done all this community work, but now my roles are ending. So looking for that next step is, I again went back to Leadership York, and they had a board opportunity who was looking for board members. So I knew I wanted to join a board that was a partner agency of United Way, and I found that opening at Bell Socialization Services. So I joined that board in 2019. As happenstance, just by the way bylaws changed and term limits, I became president of that last year in 2021. So I have a 2-year term as president of Bell. In 2020, Ann invited me to come back to the United Way board, and also got invited to join the UPMC Pinnacle Foundation board. So 3 things all at once. It's just the way that I roll. So very engaged in the community. I would say I didn't grow up knowing giving back. My family didn't give back to the community that I recalled. I did ask my dad, and he said that he did do March of Dimes in United Way through his workplace, but I don't think it flowed down into something that I was aware of. My mom had given of her time to PTO and being a band mom. So I think giving back to the community is definitely rooted in knowing how fortunate my family is and having mentors in my life where giving back is a priority. So I want to be supportive of the community and be recognized as a community leader and be part of something that's bigger than myself.
think you may have reached that point. Oh my goodness.
Oh, here's the next part.
The three amazing words. Yes, the next part is coming. Get ready for your tears. Okay. Okay. Well, that is amazing, and thank you for all that you do. I mean, that is incredible, Leanne. All right. So along those lines, there have been a few pivotal experiences in your life that have really shaped your legacy. Can you please tell us about those?
Yes. So the two most pivotal experiences in my life are losing my mom to colon cancer and almost losing my husband to a horrific car accident. My mom was diagnosed with colon cancer just weeks after I went to college. So talk about added stress of not having a network of support around you, me. But thankfully, her best friend, my godmother, was only 20 minutes away, and I did find my college people fairly quickly. Of course, my mom went through all the surgeries, the blood transfusions, chemo, to try and beat it. But the summer before my senior year, we had that difficult conversation that she wasn't going to make it to my graduation. As always, she had always wanted to go on an Alaska cruise, but that was way too far to go. So as a family, we were able to go on a cruise to Nova Scotia and St. John, Newfoundland. Despite how sick my mom was that final summer, we did our best to enjoy it. My sister and I returned to college, not knowing what the next few months were going to entail. I joined the fall musical production of Snoopy. Mm-hmm. My sister and I were rushed home right around fall break, thinking that the end was there. It wasn't quite yet, and she did live for a few more weeks. My final conversation with her was me being worried about her and my role as Lucy in the Snoopy musical, which was scheduled for the following weekend. So I remember her final words to me that it would be okay. She died the next day on November 10th, 2001. A whole van of Juniata College friends came to the funeral. And I returned to school the very same day as the funeral because I'd had to make her words right, that it was going to be okay. So the timing lined up where I was back to school and I played Lucy 2 days later with my dad and sister in the audience. So that experience, losing a parent, is hard no matter what age you are. But I refused to die of colon cancer. It was a lovely graduation gift that I went and had my first colonoscopy at the age of 22. I'm now up to number 7. So my little soapbox is recommendations have changed. If you are over 45 or have a family history, go get tested. Yes, the prep is the worst. The nap during the procedure is great, and knowing nothing's growing inside of you is the best. So that's my first ways I've changed my life because of my mom's experience. And second, I'm not waiting for retirement to achieve those vacation goals. My husband and I went to Alaska for our honeymoon, getting to see the state that my mom never saw. And I always had the goal of seeing 50 states. And when we went to South Dakota and the Badlands in 2017, that's when the bucket list got bigger to expand to include all the national parks because they are amazing. And we're doing this as a family. So Matt and I have been to 48 states. We're missing Utah and Hawaii, and the kids have been to 46. They are missing New Mexico and Alaska as well. And as we said earlier, we've been to 34 states, national parks. We were just at the Virgin Islands, and I did get sunburned. As the beach parks are not my favorite, but they are my daughter's. So remember the point where I said that I can set those big goals and follow through and envisioning the future? That's what all of that is about. So if all goes to plan, in 2025, we will return to Alaska for our 20th wedding anniversary, the kids' 50th states, and the final national parks.
Right.
So it's only 4 more trips away, or 4 years away, or less, 3. And that's all going to happen before our oldest turns 16. I know part of the push of why am I doing this so quickly, one, don't wait to do things if you can do it now. But it was really around an article I read several years ago that you only get 18 summers with your kids. So I'm certainly maximizing that, and before they're off doing their own thing, we're going to have all the experiences with them. So that's pivotal experience number one. Pivotal experience number two happened on March 9th, 2018, as my husband was driving to work. And the occurrences led me to call him at 6:30 in the morning, which I usually did not do. He didn't even pick up the phone because I don't call him. So when he returned the call, I was able to share the story, a silly story of our daughter. But then I heard the worst sounds of metal crunching and glass shattering, and then the deafening silence because the call did not end. Oh, tissues are down. So I was pacing in our basement with the morning workout frozen on the screen, and I'm just screaming, "Hello, can anyone hear me? Please pick up the phone." I knew what had happened, but I didn't know the outcome. It was about 10 minutes until someone finally did hear the phone, picked it up, identified herself as a nurse, and she could give me the assurance that he was responsive and that the ambulance was arriving. I said to take him to UPMC Pinnacle because that's where he worked. From there were so many decisions and so many phone calls. And after a half hour of no information, I got the kids to a neighbor so that she could get them on the bus. And I headed north, being sure to avoid I-83 that was shut down. I arrived at UPMC and he wasn't there. I walked out of that ER with a list of trauma ERs, and so I called Hershey and found that he was in the ICU with blood on the brain, and he was sedated. When I called my work with an update, I learned that life flight was used in the accident. At the time, I didn't know that it was Matt that was the one flown to the hospital. As I'm 15 minutes away from Hershey Med Center, the state police called at 8:40, 2 hours after the actual accident. I still can't imagine how different my morning would have been if I wasn't on the phone to have heard the car accident. So after 3 nights in the hospital, he was released to have physical, occupational, and speech therapy. And I found all 3 of those at a retirement home. It was a little funny to see a 36-year-old among 70-plus-year-olds, but being 36 was to his advantage. After 8 weeks, he had completed all of his therapies and returned to work. Throughout the whole ordeal, we had every protection needed, and I know that is not the case for many people that could have experienced that. Yes, we got a very large bill for a helicopter ride. He doesn't remember, but we could pay it, and we could afford to get a new car. For the rest of 2018, I worked with the at-fault insurance company to complete the claim. And they certainly did not make it easy. There was once that I received an empty envelope that was supposed to contain the release letter. So our insurance claims person through Acuity was amazing, and he helped me navigate this unknown world. So when all was said and done, the medical lien was paid off, we had a new car, and we got a surprising settlement from not only the at-fault insurance, but our own insurance for what's called underinsured insurance. They felt the seriousness of the accident was worth more. The night before the accident, I was scrolling through Facebook, as normally do in the evening, and I felt compelled to give to a GoFundMe page for a sister of someone that I knew. So I do truly believe some of that karma is what was a factor in the outcome of the accident. So after receiving the settlement, we decided that we had to give back. We set up an endowment at the UPMC Pinnacle Foundation, which we called the Brain Matters. And it's very flexible, but it's focused on anything related to brain injuries or education. Last year, we gave away 150 bike helmets to York City kids. So if they fall, they don't have a potential of getting a brain injury. We also endowed a scholarship at Juniata College called the Life is Short Fund that is for students that have lost a parent. So obviously a tribute to my mom. We made a commitment to be one of the youngest Tocqueville Society members at United Way and are giving over $10,000 every year. But don't worry, I did not give it all away. The other portion of the settlement is our vacation fund. Also on Facebook that night was a quote that has stuck with me. I swear, the way of the night transpired, it was supposed to happen, and it played out as it was supposed to. So the quote was, "There will be very painful moments in your life that will change your entire world in a matter of minutes. These moments will change you. Let them make you stronger, smarter, and kinder." So hours before the accident, I'm reading, "Your life will change." And there's another quote that I love that's on our mantle. And it's on one of those little black box quote things. I don't know what they are exactly, but it says, "Take vacations, go as many places as you can. You can always make more money. You can't always make memories." So tying those two together, just having learned the lesson that life is short, we are stronger and kinder, and going on all the vacations to make those memories. So I'm pretty proud of how we've been able to turn some negative experiences into positives, and we definitely are leaving that legacy for many people. Look, I didn't even cry, just teared up.
I mean, that is just so moving and inspiring for sure. What a unique gift. I'm not sure how to word that you are able to do that and make such a difference for other people. That's wonderful. Very moving. So I know that you both, instill that culture of giving for your children. And so I'm wondering if you could tell me more or tell us more about that and why. I think you shared why it's important for you, but I know Give Local York is coming up too, and you kind of make that a special celebration in your house. So if you can share some of those things, that'd be great, please.
Of course. So Nolan and Odette started giving at a young age, but not by choice. I really struggle with the volume of things that come into a house around birthdays and Christmas. And of course, as kids, they want all the things, even if it's just going to sit on a shelf and not play with it for very long. So we started a policy of giving every other year. So when they had birthday parties, their friends could give them toys, and the next year we were going to collect items for United Way programs. So through the years, we collected books, balls, alarm clocks, and other requested items. So Give Local York is coming up. This is year 5, right? And when we started that, we recognized there were a lot of organizations worthy of support. And when I first explained this to my son, he couldn't understand why were we going to give our money away. And it was going to be something that we were going to support. So we let the kids choose 2 organizations each. And I would say throughout the years, the majority of their choices have been animal focused. But deciding how much we were going to give was the next unknown. So my husband came up with the idea to make it fun for them. And we would throw a paper airplane. So we put out dollar amounts on our hallway on the floor, and everyone takes a turn in throwing the paper airplane to see how much an organization receives. It's a little frightening if all of them went to the end, but that hasn't happened yet. But it's still, we're definitely getting higher volume as the kids get bigger. They can get the airplane further. So both kids now look forward to an event, and they have a better understanding of the nonprofit community and how important it is to give back. I'll also say that Nolan's a Boy Scout and Odette is a Girl Scout, so they each have their own opportunity to do other volunteer work. A year ago, as a family, we helped the Boy Scouts clean up Church Road. And I don't think it's going to be easy to get my daughter to do that again. There was way too many cigarette butts, but Matt and Nolan are doing it again this Saturday. But Odette was happy to help me with planting a tree with the Rotary's Preserve Planet Earth Committee. So both of them are going to find their own path of volunteer opportunities, of course, with our encouragement.
I was just going to say, how could they not? Yes, that's for sure. Great. That's really neat. And it's next Friday, so woohoo.
Yeah.
So what is your best advice for anyone facing a roadblock, personally or professionally?
I think a key for me has been the network of people that you can talk to anything with. I know it's been a big recommendation in the past few years to have your personal board of directors, and I absolutely do. And they showed up for me last fall. They are the people that are going to be supportive or the ones that open your eyes to other options. So I've realized how many deep relationships that I have throughout all facets of my life. But I also think approaching goals with the same mantra that you don't get what you don't ask for. I can look back at key points where I wanted something, built the case and the details around it, and why it was something I wanted and asked. Sometimes being brave enough to ask is the hardest part. But of course, not everything ends in a yes, so it's recognizing that if it's a no, figuring out what you can do differently and finding that next step. I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And it's so cool to see why when it's time to see that. So I do, one other thing, I do think it's important for you to find the me time, and I know that can be extremely difficult depending on the roles in your life. But if that's whether it's yoga, journaling, vision boards, going for a walk, my personal experience, be careful on the stress cakes. But, so, yeah.
That's great advice, really great advice. So we have one important last question. Last but not least, what's your favorite dessert and why?
So obviously I knew the question, and it shouldn't come as a surprise. I've mentioned it 3 times now, I think, cake. I am a baker and love trying new recipes. It is a little bit sad that I now work virtually, so I don't have coworkers to bake for, but it's actually helping my waistline. But without a doubt, it's chocolate peanut butter cake is my ultimate favorite. So just like the Reese's commercials say, I'm not sorry. It's just that perfect combination for me.
I hear you. That's my favorite too. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much. Definitely really appreciate all that you've shared with us. Does anyone have any questions for Leanne? All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Leanne. You've obviously been through a lot of transitions in your life, personally and professionally. You talked about the leadership change in Mantech. Could you talk about the significant difference in your companies? You know, Mantech being a small and standalone nest, and maybe some things you didn't anticipate, and how you know, positive and challenging, how you navigated that.
Are you repeating the question, or am I?
Yeah. The question is just kind of maybe comparing the differences between the two employers that she's had and just her thoughts on that.
Yeah, so thank you, Ann. Yes, they are very different companies. When I left Mantech, we were at 11 people, and now, like I said, I'm at 200 plus. It is a new experience to have a structure where I can't just go ask and start going forward. So there is an amazing marketing team at Sambon Nest. There's 5 of them. It used to just be me until we hired a marketing events coordinator under me at Mantech. So 2 people to do what now I get to do with a team of 5. But still, they have a great schedule built out, and I'm finding a little bit of hiccups of like, how do I get the things I want to do done at my fast pace? I'm working through it, finding the ways that I can approach things differently and still achieve the goals of why I'm there. And from what I keep hearing, they have more momentum than they have had in the past several years. It just feels a little bit slower to me to be in this bigger structure than being able to just ask and go do it. So
That makes sense. Fair enough.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right. Do we have any questions from our virtual viewers? No, we do not. All right. Sounds good. Let's see.
I think we did well.
I think we did wonderful. Yes, I think we did wonderful. So I just want to thank you, Leanne, for taking the time to be here today and sharing your story and all the amazing things you shared with us. I mean, I'm inspired. How about? Yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you, Leanne.
All right, thank you.
Great job. Okay, so we just have a few more announcements. Our next event is set for Wednesday, May 18th, and it will be a lifelong learning breakfast featuring a panel on diversity, including Kim Brister from Wealthspan, which you heard earlier. And so watch for more details, and you can register on the Women United webpage. And so now, I have to find where it is. Oh, there it is. We have a raffle from Wealthspan. Woohoo! All right, and the winner is Emily Starr from KCI Technologies. have to find the gift, but she'll be right back. All right, so thank you again to our sponsors this morning, to our Women United Steering Committee for helping us to coordinate the event, and to each of you for starting your morning with us. So make sure to stay connected with Women United and get all the updates on our next events through the United Way of York County Facebook page and our regular emails. And if you're not receiving those, please reach out to Nora Rotz, our newer marketing coordinator at United Way. If you haven't met Nora yet, wave, that's Nora. And she's wonderful, glad to have her. And I want to thank you again for all you're doing in our community, the ways that you give back and the care that you give others. And I want you to have a fantastic day. Thank you. One moment.
Surprise. So I'd say
Oh.
the person with the birthday closest
We have one more thing.
today, you're
For
at their table.
the centerpieces. Raise your hand if you have a birthday closest to today. That you get to take the centerpiece. All right. Sounds good. Well, enjoy your day. Thank you.